Yo, welcome to my YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe.
If you talk to us 20 years ago or 20 years from now, the content looks completely different, right? 20 years ago, video was like, there's a barrier to it. Not many people could do video or it was really expensive. Now, anyone can do video from their phone and it looks amazing. 20 years from now, it's going to be like augmented reality or virtual reality, right? And we're going to have holograms in the room with us of people presenting their message. And so content and the gear and the tools used behind it matter less. And it's always about the message over the visual.
I'm super excited about this interview because Dallin, we met how long ago? Or where did we meet?
It's been a year or two. I don't know. I lose track of time. 2020. I don't even know what day it is.
Yeah, 2020 messed up a lot of our internal clocks, I think.
Yeah.
Or like chronologically, what happened before that. It's going to be one of those events like later in life, we're going to be like, you remember that one time in life? Like, where were you?
Where were you in 2020?
9/11, everybody knows that,
Yeah, it's the irony of it. It's like we get so used to what people call normal lives. And then there's this disruption this year on so many fronts. And the fact that the year's 2020, like 2020 vision, and all those like comparisons, it's fascinating that it just happened to be in this year.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be better next year. But I mean, besides that, we're gonna be talking about content because you work with some big brands, and helping them in their content stand out in their marketing strategies, etc. So I have a lot of questions I want to ask you, just so people could walk away with more knowledge about how to make their content better or stand out. Who are some people you work with, by the way? Like, what are you up to? Like, what have you done? Like, cool things?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I pulled from experience I worked with a lot of travel companies like Princess Cruises, I still do, Carnival Corporation, Holland America Line, a bunch of companies who have been impacted greatly.
Well,
sure.
Fun fact: my mom used to work for Princess Cruises.
Oh, no way.
She was like the art dealer on the yachts, not like level you worked out with them. Yeah. It was a different level, but
yeah, that's so cool. Yeah. And I love the brand. They've been hit hard this year, but I've been involved a lot with their PR and messaging. And then I started working for different online entrepreneurs and brands and app companies. So like Clutter, Teachable, to other online experts from time to time with like Danielle Leslie and Julie Stoyan. I think you and I have worked with a few similar clients like Allison Prince. We worked with her for a little bit, Emily Hirsch, and other people who are great brand builders and very inspiring. So a variety of different types of brands. And so it's been fun to test different frameworks. Not different, just the same frameworks on these different types of industries and recognizing that these principles hold true no matter what type of business you're in.
Yeah, because I mean, Princess is like Fortune. I would say they're like, that's more of like a big corporate versus, the personal brands is a whole different, like the relationship to their audience, I guess there's more of a personal brand behind people who have internet companies in most cases, which is a different type of content. Honestly, I prefer that because then it can get more personable. It's hard when companies try to do content because especially when they're, yeah. And I mean, but a lot of big companies do have that person though. And they're like Elon Musk is, I wouldn't say he focuses on content, but he's a person and it helps his company.
People know his face behind it. Yeah. I wish every company could have that though. Like Princess Cruises, they're good at positioning their guests as the hero of the story they tell. And so a lot of it is like user generated, or they hire different influencer types to, go on sponsored cruises and things like that. But then another client, I work with the U.S. Marines, which is more of a government, right, agency. And that is even more faceless because you don't really know, like,
but yeah, that's like by design.
And it's less, it's by design, right?
Yeah, because they don't want people to know, like it's more like that gets into like political stuff. Yeah.
Oh, it totally does. But it's interesting because it's like there's so many different levels and departments, like any big corporation. And so it's easy to kind of get lost in the mix and realizing like it probably be more of a genuine, like if you give beyond like some of the main political players in the government, if you give more of a genuine face to different departments in a way that people can actually connect with.
I do think Twitter's done that though. Twitter's made people who, it's made people who didn't have like an identity like in those realms, you know, or like a lot of like local politicians and like, you know, a lot of people who are trendy. It's because they have a big following, you know, through you know, social.
And definitely, I mean, I think it's built into it because you're definitely hiring on policy, but people also vote on personality. As well.
AOC is a great example.
The popularity contest back in
like
high school.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of I mean, she's going to be popular because she has 4 million followers, right? So she can go to any state. You know, I don't know how those positions work. All right, we're getting a little bit off topic. Let's go back. I'm curious to know, like,
but principles apply. Yeah.
But I want to know, like, what do you do exactly when you're working with these big companies you were mentioning, the Marines, Carnival? Like, what's like your magic that you're getting into with people?
Magic, we got a wand. We put magic in. So we, my company's called Content Supply, and we believe the way to stand out is with a powerful and clear message. And so we have a 3-phase marketing framework where we first craft a powerful brand message, build a marketing plan that works, and then insert content into those strategies to really skyrocket brand growth, get the attention you want, and achieve the goals you want. And so it's really built out of that messaging, that marketing, and that medium. Video is definitely a strength that we focus on, at least with our done for you service agency. But then our frameworks work for any type of content you do. And so like our coaching and courses are all built around this idea that at the end of the day, content, yes, it's important, but it's more about the message behind it. Because, you know, if you talk to us 20 years ago or 20 years from now, the content looks completely different, right? 20 years from now, video was like, there was a barrier to it. Not many people could do video, or it was really expensive. Now, anyone can do video from their phone and it looks amazing. 20 years from now, it's going to be like augmented reality or virtual reality, right? And we're going to have holograms in the room with us of people presenting their message. And so content and the gear and the tools used behind it matter less. And it's always about the message over the visual.
That was one thing we were talking about before, is like the tech issues behind creating content. Like, you know, you run into, like, what are the most common you run into, or tech problems people have when creating content, doing videos, etc. I know your style, sometimes you're like on scene. It's very like, you know, done for you, but like for people who are more do-it-yourselfers.
You know, it varies. Tech issue wise specifically, it definitely comes down to the tool and honestly, internet. Internet deals a lot with it, because you think about what we're doing now, right? We're streaming, yet the stream that the viewers are watching is lagged. It's like a 20-second delay, and that's very common to most broadcast. And I think of different projects we've done for a variety of clients, whether it's like live experiences or just tech related. Internet, if the internet is inconsistent, then that is a huge issue. And so you definitely want a reliable internet connection. And then you definitely want to be fully powered up and have in storage. And that you know, the most simple, yet sometimes people miss it. And particularly because, you know, 2020 being as it is, a lot of people are doing a lot of things themselves, more DIY, is hitting record. Like whether it's just avoiding hitting record altogether, or when you think you're recording, you don't hit record and you have to like, oh my gosh, I have to redo this again. So, I mean, I think tech issues, there's a long list, but it usually comes down to, like not necessarily as much of a tech issue as it is just the inability or excuses people put in place that just keep them from using the tech to create any kind of content.
Yeah, I think that's super important too, because I was actually thinking about that this morning. It's funny that you brought it up. When I was, because I'm always studying the market, seeing like who's out there, like because it's part of our job to do things for clients, so we have to look at, you know, their competitions and stuff. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people made bad content when they started out. Like it wasn't that good. And it's funny, like especially a lot of YouTubers, popular YouTubers or brands that are creating content who have big followings, influencers. Like if you go all the way back, it was kind of embarrassing, and they could have stopped there. But.
Yeah. It's really motivating too at the same time. Cause like, I don't know how many podcast episodes you put out, but like the first like 20 or 50,
oh, it's cringe. I try not to. It's too soon for me to listen to it.
Yeah.
Like it's too much of a wound right now. Maybe in like 5 years I might. Yeah.
Would you ever, that's the question. Would you ever go back and listen to it? Cause
I did the other day. Like actually like.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did like a month ago.
An actor, but like a lot of actors don't like to watch themselves because they're way too critical. And I feel like that's kind of what it turns into. Is we start criticizing and focusing less on what's being said versus how we're saying it.
Yeah, is it? I think it was the guy from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Johnny Depp, yeah.
Yeah, he never has seen one of his movies, apparently.
But
I doubt that.
Experienced it, yeah. No, you got to watch it in some form, right? Because they have a premiere of it, and so you're there in the premiere. But I
actually think that's actually good to do if you're a content creator, is to look at or listen to yourself.
Yeah.
Do you ever do that?
Yeah, I do. I don't do the full episodes because I just readjusted and it shows the list of podcast episodes I've done on my podcast, and I think I just maybe hit like 119 or 120, which is insane to me, because like I started it when I think it was still in my full-time job and hustling on the side business, and I wanted to do it, and I still do, just to meet people in this virtual world. And so it was cringeworthy at the beginning, but like the more I listen back on some of these episodes or like recent ones, I'm like, I don't sound like that bad, like I'm more comfortable with talking, and then I'll just kind of laugh at the moments that I stutter or say words incorrectly or don't use complete sentences, use ums and ahs too much. And then I'll be like, okay, well, I'm always a work in progress, I guess.
Yeah, I say too much or like.
Yeah. So,
and you notice that though when you listen to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I like to equate it sometimes of like, usually the people who are best at what they do, or in sports, they're the best who are in the film room,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
and it's really with practice too. I mean, I think podcasting is interesting because particularly if you get a guest on your podcast, there's a little bit more accountability built into it versus if you're doing a solo episode. Because sometimes solo episodes, you can kind of procrastinate. It's easier to put it off. But what I like about having these kinds of conversations is that it helps you practice on knowing how to talk about what you do. So your messaging, but also just giving you more clarity. Like sometimes you become your own coach to your own frameworks, or selfishly you can pull from what the guest or the host is saying on the podcast interviews. And I feel like a lot of podcasts can turn into kind of coaching sessions, not only when you go back to listen to them and evaluate yourself and what's being said, but also just live in the experience.
Yeah. I think it depends the type of guest you get on, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
In situations. But what are some frameworks? Let's talk about your podcast, like you creating content. What are like your favorite frameworks you use that you think make your life easy? That's usually something that's helpful, right?
Yeah, definitely don't have it reliant solely on you. I do have a podcast manager with a lot of like, the tech stuff, whether it's scheduling or coordinating.
Same here. I've one who tells me when I'm doing live streams that my titles are wrong. Oh man.
Yeah. Or you have just like, I have a few friends who are not even in the business space who like send me random messages like, oh, there's a typo in this content, or like this is issues happening. And I'm like, I'm so glad I have you as a friend to let me know, what's going wrong. But yeah, like having like, to me, it's all about accountability. Like at the end of the day, whether we are massively extroverted or super introverted, we still have barriers that keep us from doing what we know we should be doing, which a big part of that is publishing, right? And so when we can have someone who can step in there and either schedule those interviews or follow up to be like, hey, you haven't been doing an episode lately, or they're there to edit and promote and really launch and send it off to your email list, things like that. It saves me so much time and like overthinking it versus like if you have someone in there who is not critical of your voice or how you're doing things and simply is just there to follow a process, then there's no attachment to it. And I think I feel this way with like my video experience. When I would edit my videos in the past, I would get so critical, and sometimes I'm just like, I just don't want to finish this, so it doesn't get done. And you know, when you rely solely on yourself, and so setting up systems and a team around you to do things without you having to be a bottleneck and to say no and just to publish, regardless if it's perfect or not, is important.
Yeah. So that, I mean, it sounds like, you know, like in the creative process too, like I guess writer's block sometimes causes procrastination or you don't do something. Like, how do you get over that? I guess, like, do you feel that ever?
Oh, for sure. Like writer's block or just a creative block for any type of creativity someone does.
How involved are you with clients right now? Like are you creating content for clients at all, or?
We're always creating content for clients. I've just at the time we're recording this, right, December 2020, I made a lot of changes this year. I've been very hands-on involved. Part of it because I love the relationships with clients and working with them directly. But something's got to give, and that can only you can get burnout or become a bottleneck, and that's happened many times, unfortunately, in the agency part of my business. And so about a month ago, I hired a creative director to run my agency, and so he's still getting fully trained up, but you know he's able to operate without me. He's full time, and it's, to me, it's the next step in my business to to me, there's more to my business than just done for you services. That's a powerful part. You know, we have our video advertising agency, but then content supply means a lot more to me as far as offering more consulting and training and just a whole platform of opportunities that say when I've been involved directly with client services, that limits your ability to work on other stuff. That's not a bad thing. You get to serve so many amazing clients. I've been able to do it. It's been super great, but it's like I think you got to evaluate where you fit best.
Yeah,
people love client work and you can do it every day, all the time. I'm ready for a change. Like I'm ready to level up and to step in more to a business owner role versus an agency service provider.
Yeah, and that definitely drives home the point that with your podcast, the thing that's get the biggest monkey off your back is saving your time, because as things get good, you have to shift focus into bigger, problems or, growing a little bit. So
Yeah.
what else is makes your podcast production or just makes it easy for you to do in general?
Yeah. To me, it's all, I mentioned a little bit already, but to me, it's all about kind of the, to speak to the magic. There's three magic essentials, I would say, with any kind of business operation. Whether it's recurring like a podcast or if it's like a one-time launch type project, is having the people, the processes, and the tools in place. Because then, you set up before you even hire a team or people, or maybe you have a person who has set this up for you, is get a clear checklist, step-by-step process for someone to follow. That process, they're going to be using certain tools. Some of the tools I use for podcasting, and I've changed it several times with podcast publishing, but I use Simplecast currently. I like it. It's a clean platform. A lot of times we record on Zoom, so that's another tool. We use Google Drive for storage. We use Adobe for editing. And there's other tools in place for just little micro things like Zapier for some automations, Slack. And so, but understanding where those tools fit in the process. And then once you have that set, then you can be like, okay, who are the team members and what are their roles and what set of tasks will they do in this entire workflow to successfully publish a new podcast episode or do some other process in your business. And so this has been something I've been geeking out on it in 2020, our systems. Like, so mentioning hiring this creative director for my agency, um, it's kind of funny because he's coming in and I'm so detailed with the systems he's coming in and using that it's like it's such a clear framework to follow for how we work with clients that there's no questions about it. He knows exactly what to do, and so I believe the more that happens, not only with like that part of my business but other parts of my business, um, the more growth will happen, and it's something that I've gotten placed in different forms, but now it's just each iteration of it is perfected. And so we unfortunately systems are never a done project in the business. I wish they would be because I don't know if you guys can relate, but I hate feeling like projects are not complete. Um, it's like something. It's a book that's always open that you can never close. And systems are kind of like that, but I feel like we can have versions of it that can be closed and then opened again in the future. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Systems definitely saves time, but there's always new projects, I feel like. Man. Okay, so those are what like makes your podcast easy to do, what you enjoy, or what helps you enjoy what you do. What tips would you give to someone if they're like not standing out, or what are the biggest like reasons why people aren't standing out with their content, you think? Or from what you see, working with people, like what are the things you could tell, like, oh, they're doing that thing. That's
yeah.
not I don't like that, or something like that. I don't know.
You stand out. It comes down to messaging. In more detail than messaging, it's making your content about you. That's when you don't stand out. And this is so hard. It really is, because it's so easy to talk about ourselves, and we love to talk about ourselves. Like, why do you think?
And I was talking about this morning just to show an example, like to it's actually one of my VAs. Like, you can tell, when someone's show is their name, but they're not like popular. It's kind of like that reflects that mentality. People making things about them. Like the Joe Schmo show. No one knows who Joe Schmo is.
Yeah.
Compared to like a lot of people have that mentality. So that's a good.
It's a branding move by all means, right? Like Tony Robbins, it's a brand move, like his name, and many companies are like that, and I get that. I don't necessarily like. I have a personal brand of sorts, but to me, it's attached to a brand that I want to build that exists beyond me. And so that's like that's why to me there's kind of a fusion of the personal branding to like the branding of, say, like, I don't know, Nike and Apples and Teslas of the world, where you can maybe associate certain people with those brands, but it can exist without them. And that's one aspect. And not necessarily that in having your name associated makes it about you, but it's what you put in your content, right? Like the words you use, the language you use, and how you talk about people. Understanding how to invite them into a story that is about them, on any type of content, from your videos to your website to your products. And trying to do it selflessly too, because it's again, like a lot of times we're motivated so much out of money that we're like, oh, this product will just crush it. It'll make me so much money. And so even if it's solving a problem, and even if you do end up crushing it, be motivated out of like knowing that it's going to just cash in and make so much money. It's hard. Like there's kind of that double-edged sword where, I think, I know the lifeblood of every business is traffic, leads, and sales. And so we have to have that for growth. And money is a valuable and incredible thing that we all for success. But yeah, at the end of the day,
it's oxygen to success,
Yeah. Like we have to be willing to lean into making our content about our customers. And it's so much easier said than done. I remember early on, it's like, the Gary V message of the world back when I would consume his content. I don't anymore, but he would talk about, like, as many other people, you have to create valuable content. But that valuable content was so, to me, it had such a vague meaning. Like, and there's no like tangibility. I'm like, well, how do you create valuable content? Sometimes you associate it with like how amazing the image looks or how beautiful the audio sounds on a podcast. And like that's value because it's a valuable piece of equipment or tool. Or it's like, how do you create a valuable message, something that somebody can stand behind? And value is completely dependent on the type of person. where some people throw rocks against like how-to content, which I think that's very relevant. Yet you can provide tons of value if you become searchable, like on YouTube or Google, for some how-to content that provides value for someone who needs it for that moment. And so, valuable content is a tricky thing because I feel like it has a lot more meaning and depth behind that.
I feel like it's like when someone got more than what they thought. Or value is like a feeling of like, I like people, when you buy something of value because you're going to get something that's worth more than that thing you put in. But sometimes that value could be through like how-to content or just like, he made me laugh,
Well, and the way I see it too, and this is something I'm trying to progressively implement myself. I'm far from perfect at it, is like, how can you give away more of your like secrets? Or your frameworks and give away all the information and then be hired for the implementation. Yeah.
You can give, like, we see this a lot with clients. They can give a lot of information away and people will still only do a percentage. If anything, it'll make them want to work with you more, I find, the more you give away.
And you always get those people who are really great at curating the information you put out and figuring out like, oh, here's how they would maybe do it in their more premium or price products. But yeah, like I think, and honestly, here's what I honestly believe too, is like the information is out there for free wherever you want to look. And there's only so many ways to do things under the sun, like marketing. Like marketing, it can be pretty straightforward and there's a system that works and people just package it up differently. Like, it's Christmas time, right? Like gift giving, it's like we are giving a water bottle, the same looking water bottle to thousands and millions of people, yet we gift wrap it a different way. Like the water bottle still serves the same purpose of drinking it, but
I think socks is a better example. That's more common.
Socks, water bottle, it's all about consuming or using it the same way. But yeah, socks. Yeah. Socks is a good example. But so yeah, there's only so many ways to do things, so many ways to skin a cat. You can use all these different analogies. But so like,
I mean, that's kind of why I enjoy this conversation too, to be honest, because like there's only so many people you could talk to about content, I feel like. But I like what you're up to and like the stuff you're doing.
Thanks. Well, and that's to me, it's like, I mean, I was thinking about like branding initially, like, and this is early on when I was like still learning about this online business space. And I was like, what do I name my brand? Like I not many people like know this, but I created and licensed another business while still had my previous employer. And it was a completely different market. It was a product I thought people would pay for. I was completely wrong because my understanding of business was so different back then. And then I was like, well, how can I create something like that's so self-explanatory? And I was like, well, I know for people to become visible, be seen and heard, and to grow their business, they need content. And so content supply became the natural step. I wanted something so straightforward. And also I wanted to like exist beyond, say, than just video. Like video definitely became my main source, and it still is for my agency that my creative director runs now. But like at the end of the day, it goes beyond like even content, honestly. Like early on when I was with one of my corporations, I'm set up as a for them, and they're talking to me and they're like, oh, for your company, content supply, like contentment is another word, right? But it's spelled the same way. So I kind of laughed at it, like content supply. Like, I mean, not that can take on a whole other
Some
meaning,
people
right?
say that word that way. Yeah.
Yeah. They say it that way. It's like content. And content can mean so many things. Like the contents of, like I asked my brother early on too, was like, when you think of it, what do you think? Is like, think of a craft store, like the contents of, you go and you got like scrapbooking materials. And so it's like people can define it so many ways. And so like branding, it's all about how you want to define it, right? You can pick a name, go with it. But yeah.
When most people hear about content, they think about like quantity, right?
Right.
But that's why I don't always like that word, because I feel like a better word, or how I usually explain content to people or clients, etc., is like just existing. Like you just need to like, I think that's the best way to think about it. Like, hey, like the people, are they going to remember you? Are you going to be seen? You know, are you going to be shown? Because it's hard to, you know, really, you know, grow a business, make money if you don't exist, right?
Totally.
So there's a lot of different forms of content people do.
People need to see and experience you and your clients. I mean, the power of an agency sometimes is like you're doing services for other people that sometimes, I mean, you obviously always need to market your services or your products, but with an agency, a big part of it is referrals. And then sometimes that naturally just happens to fill your pipeline. And so, but I believe until, you know, if you still operate an agency, but you want to build other parts of your business, like you have to become your perfect client. Excuse me. You have to become your perfect client, and implement the same things that you're helping your successful clients do. But yeah, like content can be so just generic. But to me, what content means is it means that you're getting a message out to the world, and that the only way to deliver a message is with content. So it's an inevitable part of your business in order to actually grow it and get a message out, whether you're a nonprofit in retail, online business, coach, course creator, you know, the list goes on.
Yeah. So I've enjoyed my time, our questions so far, and everything we've talked about. We'll wrap up here soon. I got like one or two more questions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still kind of bummed that because literally I can show you an image right now. It said like the title is like "This Month in Podcasting with Senior Ryan Helms." And it was like my last episode I did with my partner. We were talking about like just news. So I feel like people are like watching us and they're like, what the hell is this?
Who is
like,
the senior guy? Yeah.
This is not This Month in Podcasting. I had a nice little hook. I had a good message, you know, that's important.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, like right now, like overall with content, like what is your favorite, you know, marketing, or content marketing kind of medium out of all the ones? For me personally, I'll share. I've been really liking email a lot, like the consistency of email, because I feel like social algorithms changing. You know, like you got to get more, you know, gimmicky sometimes. For like, I feel like YouTube is getting more and more like where it's like clickbaity type stuff. So like, what are your favorite mediums right now that you're liking?
You know, I mean, video, to say simply, like that medium. But as far as platform goes,
platform. Sorry.
No, you're good. Platform goes, you know, Instagram, I feel like there's still so much unlimited potential there, because to me, it's a curation of all these other platforms that are coming up. Like, even if they copy things from TikTok, which they've done, or copy things from Snapchat, which they've done, I feel like Instagram is able to hold its ground more, and it's a lot more. It's easier to connect in a variety of different ways on Instagram than say what is offered on YouTube or on Facebook and all these other platforms. So to each their own. Like I think each one serves its purpose, but I think is like I love connecting with people, like whether it's DMs or other types of follow-ups. It's just there's less barriers. Like YouTube.
Yeah, it's more personal, like one-to-one.
Yeah, it's more one-to-one. Like YouTube's great, and that's something I definitely am looking to double down on more. Is but it's harder to get that one-to-one connection, or oftentimes there's that pressure to have to make it highly produced and look way to stand out. Like it's I think Instagram kind of offers a good mix of all types.
Yeah, I agree with that. I get my best, like, you know, feedback, or like, you know, people who listen, like saying stuff about the episode through Instagram, and also LinkedIn sometimes, depending on who it is.
Oh yeah.
They'll reach out. I've been liking LinkedIn a lot just for business prospecting, but it's a different story. So yeah, that's Instagram. Okay. What part about Instagram specific? Like, is it the stories, or like the new reels or videos, or?
I think it's the DMs. I know that
the DMs. Oh,
connected. Nice. Because you can watch the stories, and you can reply to people, and these are people with even big followings, and oftentimes I already have a connection with them, so it's kind of like keeping top of mind and kind of just communicating with them and on other platforms. But the DMs are unique because you can easily just send like the quick emoji response to a story, and they'll see it. Like a lot of people love seeing that red notification number of, hey, someone is sending me a direct message or there's a notification. And so they'll check their DMs pretty easily versus going and checking.
That's smart. A lot of people actually don't do it. At least a lot of people watch my stories don't.
Yeah.
Like I guess it's not a common thing. People watch it and they might really like it, but it's like there's no feedback like in, posts where there's a like or comment. Stories, like, that's why it's kind of interesting and sometimes hard to quantify for people to do, is like you can get a lot of views, but you don't get immediate feedback on the impact of that view.
Totally. Totally.
Unless they reply, so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true.
Cool, man. Well, I've enjoyed our time together, our conversation. I'll let you know when this is out there in the world. It'll be soon. I'm gonna go edit the post title real quick, so if people watch the replay, we'll be good. But anything else you want to share? Where people could follow you, find you, etc. Your podcast.
Yeah, you can discover everything I'm up to at contentsupply.com. And I'm doing a lot of things, a lot of plans for 2021. And that's where you can discover everything there is to come. And so we do have a resource called Story Supply. You can go to mystorysupply.com and get access to begin to craft a more powerful brand message. So that way your marketing can be more powerful and then your content.
Boom. Well, I appreciate you being on, man.
Yeah. Thanks,
and thanks everybody for watching, and peace out.